Thanks so much, Nigel. RI President Mark, past RI President Barry, district governors, past district governors, future district governors, assistant governors, Rotaractors, Rotarians, friends. Welcome. This is day 11 of our joint pets and assembly with District 7020 and 7030. And each session we've tried to start with our golden nugget. And today, although we've had some phenomenal golden nuggets, today we have the creme de la creme. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce President of Rotary International, President Mark Daniel Moloney, for our golden nugget segment. President Mark has been a Rotarian since 1980 and is a member of the Rotary Club of Decatur, Alabama, USA. And President Mark believes clubs are where Rotary happens. President Mark is an attorney and a principal in the law firm of Blackburn, Moloney and Shepard, LLC, with a focus on taxation, estate planning, and agricultural law. He is a member of the American Bar Association, Alabama State Bar Association, and the Alabama Law Institute. President Mark is married to Gay, the First Lady. Gay is an attorney in the same law firm and a member and past president of the Rotary Club of Decatur, Daybreak, Alabama, USA. Both President Mark and First Lady Gay are Paul Harris Fellows, major donors, and Bequest Society members. Rotarians, Rotaractors, please give a thunderous and standing ovation to our President of Rotary International, President Mark Daniel Moloney.
Thank you very much, Lyle, for that over-generous introduction. And thank you, past President Barry Rassin, for the invitation to be here for this PETS for District 7020, 7030, the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean, and even a little bit of South America, I believe, if I understand the geography correctly. It's a pleasure to be here. And you know, I was in your shoes a long time ago, 35 years ago. And frankly, when I was incoming president of the Rotary Club of Decatur, presidents-elect training seminars may have occurred in some districts, but they were not universal throughout Rotary as they are today. But I certainly remember the president of Rotary International for that year, 1985-86, Dr. Edward Cadman from Wenatchee, Washington, USA. And the theme for that Rotary year was, "You are the key." And ladies and gentlemen, you as the presidents-elect, as the presidents next year, starting July 1, of your Rotary clubs, are the key. President Ed Cadman talked about the Rotary hierarchy, comparing it to a pyramid. And he said your typical pyramid is, you know, at the bottom you have 35,000 Rotary clubs and the club presidents. And then the next, you know, then the pyramid gets smaller and you get to the 528 Rotary district governors. And then you get to the 19 members of the Rotary International Board of Directors, and you come to the point, and there's the president of Rotary International. But he said that that pyramid is not a accurate description of the importance of those individuals, that the pyramid should be turned upside down, standing on its point, and that the people at the top of the pyramid are the presidents of the Rotary clubs. As was mentioned in my introduction, I have said that clubs are where the action happens. And I can be president of Rotary International. Barry Rassin has been. And we have these 19 directors and these 500 and something governors. But I guarantee you there won't be much service conducted if we're depending upon those less than 600 people to get it done. It's the club presidents who make sure that service happens in this Rotary world. And therefore, you are the key. You are the ones who will open opportunities for the Rotarians in your club. If anything happens in your club, it's going to be because you have organized it and you are making sure that it happens. I've seen many Rotary clubs. If the president is dynamic and visionary, the club will be dynamic and visionary. If, on the other hand, the president is just along for the ride and lets things happen as they develop, that's exactly what will happen. The Rotarians of your club view this as your Rotary year. This is Sam's year. This is Mary's year. And they are going to take the lead from you. Therefore, you need to be motivated to increase our service and to increase the impact that your club has in the community. I do want to say that right now, one of the most important services that you can make sure your club performs is to engage the members of your club. Right now, clubs all over the world are meeting virtually. Who would have ever thought that we would have pets all over the world on a virtual platform? Not just one part of it, but the entire pets. And here you have 385 participants in this event from all over the Caribbean and the northern part of South America. And Rotarians have made the pivot. However, there are some who are being left behind. And if your club is meeting virtually, I want to congratulate you on that and encourage you to continue to do that. But as you hold your virtual meetings, I want you to check that participant panel that shows up on the right-hand side of your screen, at least if you're in the Zoom platform. And make note, not so much of the names that are there, but the names that are not there. And I encourage you to reach out to those individuals to help them realize that they are missed and how valuable they are to Rotary. And the fellowship and the connection that participating in the virtual meeting will provide for them. Make sure that they're taken care of. Make sure that their needs are met. Are they not coming because they're embarrassed about some particular situation? Make them comfortable about that. Are they uncomfortable with a virtual meeting? Well, help them along with that. The number one service we can perform during this time is member engagement. And I encourage you to do everything that you can to involve all of the members of your clubs. And if you have a neighboring club that hasn't quite found its way onto the virtual platform, and you have, offer your services to the club. Invite them to come join in your virtual meetings. Show them how easy it is to move onto this virtual platform. Now, speaking of the virtual platform, I would be remiss if I did not make a big pitch for the first virtual convention in the history of Rotary International. Save the dates for June 20 to 26. And we will have the first virtual convention. And I've come up with the longest possible title for this convention. Now more than ever, Rotary Connects the World, the 2020 Rotary Virtual Convention. And I want you to be there. I want to see you online for the convention. There will be general sessions on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, June 20 and 21. Those sessions are 8 o'clock in the morning, Chicago time, which would be 9 o'clock in the Eastern time zone. And I'm not sure what other time zones there may be in the Caribbean, but I'm sure you're used to figuring that one out. And then we will have breakout sessions, 15 specially selected breakout sessions during the following week of June 22 to 26. 3 sessions each day, each session an hour long, each session at 8 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. Chicago time. So I hope to see you there. If you go to riconvention.org, you will see this schedule. You'll see the timings for those 15 breakout sessions. And more information will be coming soon. And in early June, you will have the opportunity to register. Now, register doesn't mean paying a dime. It means just that you have to sign up in order to access our live stream platform to participate in this virtual convention. Rotary's largest convention was in 2004 in Osaka, Japan. There were more than 45,300 registrants for that convention. I want to break that record. I want this to be the largest convention in Rotary history. Yes, I realize we may be cheating a little bit since everybody can join from their living rooms, but given the circumstances, I'm going to be very proud if we can top 50,000 participants in this convention. Once again, the clubs are where Rotary happens. And what happens in the clubs is a result of your leadership. This is, to the Rotarians in your club, this is your Rotary year. Make sure that it's a year to be remembered. Plan your year well. Call upon your members to rally behind you. And I know that you will have a fabulous year as Rotary opens opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, RI President Mark, for taking the time out to be with us this evening. I know you're very pressed, but we will all try to be there, all 50,000 of us. And thank you once again. Okay, our guest speaker this evening is Jenny Stutz. As I read her bio, I started thinking, I need to meet this lady, which I did today, and I'm very fortunate to have met her. Jenny is a charter member of the Rotary Club of Athens Sunrise and currently serves as the membership chair and the assistant governor in Rotary District 6690. Her favorite Rotary activities includes Ryla and Paddle for Polio Plus, which is an event which features kayaks. Professionally, Jenny is the Executive Director of the Athens CASA and GAL program and the Regional Coordinator of Southeast Ohio CASA. She is a licensed social worker, a certified trauma specialist, and a trained forensic interviewer. Jenny has devoted her career to serving foster children. She developed and is the leading a large-scale service project called the BRIG Project, which benefits her hometown by bringing together more than a dozen Rotary, Kiwani, Lions, and Civitas clubs, which she describes as her dream project. Jenny was recently recognized in her community and region as a Young Professional of the Year, Community Leader of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, Woman of the Year, and Ohio's University 5 Under 35 featured alumni. She is married to a Rotarian and describes herself simply as a mother, wife, friend, social worker, Rotarian, and troublemaking millennial. Something that was not in her bio that I learned earlier as well is she is a triathlete and cannot run marathons because she starts to stumble at 20 miles. Welcome, Wonder Woman. Rotarians of District 7020 and 7030, please assist me in warmly welcoming our guest speaker tonight, Jenny Stutz.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the kind introduction and for welcoming me, and especially thank you to past President Barry for inviting me after a meeting out in San Diego. And I want to start just by saying hello to all of you Rotarians and Rotaractors on the line tonight. And I gotta say, this is not how I planned on meeting all of you. Let's just start off with that. I was really looking forward to coming down for a few days and hopefully enjoy a little bit of your sunshine. Here I am, still in Ohio, dreaming of sunshine at this point. But after all, this is Rotary, and we pivot and we adapt. Now, even though I know this wasn't what any of us were expecting, I'm still Rotary happy, and I'm happy that your district leadership is getting creative with fun new training platforms like this to prepare you to lead your clubs. And how wonderful for us to be connected this way. I've gotten to know your colleague, actually, Alicia Lake, because she visits my Rotary Club meeting on Thursday mornings. Who would have thought that that would ever be possible, that we could be traveling around the world, all from the comfort of our own home. So what a time it is to be in Rotary. And yes, I'm very happy for each of you. You get to lead your club during a time when Rotary is going to be more flexible and more innovative than ever before. But we're gonna work, no, I'm Rotary happy for all of you. But I know what you're thinking. If you have never met me before, you're probably thinking, what is Rotary happy anyway? Well, I'm glad you asked, but we're gonna work together to answer that question. And you can do that by typing into the chat box, if you don't mind, why you're in Rotary or Rotaract. Answer this question quickly and without thinking too much. It doesn't need to be insightful. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be you. Why are you in Rotary? And I'm gonna call out a couple. Fun, I see to serve, service, fellowship, friends, to give back. Service is in my blood, I love that one. Contribute to society, give back, meet people, serve others. Service and fellowship, it's like you're all just copying each other, just service, service, service. Apparently you're all good people. To bring change, laughter, and great work. You realized your purpose was to serve. Fellowship and service, camaraderie. 25 and a half years later, I still love the service and the fellowship. So the reason that I start with this question is because I already knew the answer. I know why you're all in Rotary. I know why you're all Rotaractors or Rotarians. And it's the same every time I ask that question. I ask that question anytime I'm in a meeting with a Rotary meeting. Why are you in Rotary? Because sometimes we forget, right? We think about Rotary as the meetings or the networking, and sometimes we forget why we're in Rotary. So for me, my Rotary Happy and why I'm in Rotary is because it fulfills an integral part of my life's mission. And I hope that you'll all, as you're spending the next few minutes with me, think about your own Rotary Happy and think about why you do this. Why are you involved in this organization? And hang on to it. And better yet, tell somebody about it. So for me, Rotary Happy has become this concept of creating a member experience that is both fulfilling and engaging. And this is, in my opinion, the most important thing that you can do as a club leader to grow and sustain your membership. And now I've been told that I'm rah Rotary, that I'm just really excited about Rotary, but you know, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm excited about Rotary, so what? And I love shouting it from the rooftop. And I hope that you all are too. But you know, I do have to share that my passion for Rotary Happy and for developing and enhancing the member experience actually stems from a time when I wasn't quite this Rotary Happy. And in fact, I was a part of a club that had become toxic and it had become unstable, and it had at times become very unsafe and felt very unsafe for me. And being a part of a club where there was bullying and secrets and judgment and exclusion, it just isn't the type of member experience that I would wish on anyone. When I first joined Rotary, I loved it. It felt like home to me. And for my entire life, I've had this need or this urge to give back to my community and to take care of my neighbors. And I never really thought I could explain it, why I had this urge to give back, why I had this urge to help others. And I actually, after doing some thinking, I really think it stems from my earlier life. You see, I happen to have been born to parents who couldn't raise me. I entered the child welfare system as just a baby. And I was placed into a foster home where I was later adopted. And growing up in a working foster home and having the life experiences that I've had, you get this front row look at some of the vulnerabilities that exist in the world. And you get this sense that there are opportunities everywhere just waiting for someone to come along and notice it and do something about it. And I think that's why I felt so immediately enveloped in what Rotary was when I first joined. It was an entire organization reaching across the entire globe, and the mission was exactly what I felt my entire life. I'd found a way to grow as a person and support my community alongside people I loved and I admired. And that's why in the few years after I joined Rotary, what would transpire in my original club was really heartbreaking to me, and it was really hard for me to manage everything that was happening. Some of my early member experiences, they felt a little bit like betrayal. It wasn't what I signed up for. And there were unwritten rules about where you would sit in our meetings. There were passive-aggressive remarks if you dared to miss a meeting. Lots of whispered and hushed conversations about which member was doing more and which member was doing less and who was giving more or giving less. A lot of comments about women and what we wore, what we said, how we acted, how we talked. And I found myself getting pulled into these email threads about other members. It was heart-wrenching. And it kind of had me wondering if there were email threads circulating about me, about something I'd said, something I'd worn. And, you know, I got to a point where speaking up just didn't feel that safe to me. And there were times when I was in the thick of that period of my life that my husband, who's now a Rotarian, and my friends would ask me why I didn't just quit Rotary. Was this even worth it? And I'd actually thought about that often myself. And here's the thing, I couldn't quit Rotary. It had become too important to me. I believed in the mission too much. You see, Rotary, the real Rotary, not what I was experiencing, but the real Rotary had become the way I had always wanted to live my life. And it went all the way back to when I was just a little girl. Rotary had become a part of who I am. So I didn't quit Rotary. I couldn't quit Rotary, but I quit the club, and so did a lot of other people. And what happened next is one of my very favorite stories to share. So very organically, very informally, I and a couple of other displaced Rotarians started to meet casually just as a way to support one another in this tiny little coffee shop in our town called Donkey Coffee. And each week, more and more people joined us. It started out just one person joined us, and then more, until finally we had couple dozen people sitting in the back room of that little coffee shop with mismatched chairs and mismatched tables. And eventually it made sense to charter a new Rotary Club. That's exactly what we did. And in less than 4 years, we've gone from a few people meeting for coffee to a club of nearly 90 members. And I had the honor of serving as our club's second president, excitedly. And during that year that I got to serve as president, I had the pleasure of inducting a new member every other week. And every single member of our club that year was engaged in a service project. That second part is what I'm most proud of, is that we had 100% of our membership engaged in service. Our club is weird. We're full of energy. We have almost no rules. We laugh a whole lot. And we do an incredible amount of good work in our community. And I just love those goofballs to death. And I would invite any of you to join us on a Thursday morning. We meet at 7 a.m. on Thursdays. You can join us virtually until you can make the trip up to Donkey Coffee. So when we were building this new club, the sky was the limit. And it really wasn't useful for us to sit around and blame our former club's problems on a single person or group of people. But instead, we chose to do the harder thing. We took a really hard look at the weaknesses that existed in the system of that old club. And we looked at what we could learn from this. So we set out to build a stronger and more resilient club that would safeguard us against those little behaviors that create negative member experiences, which over time lead to more problematic and more toxic dynamics. The jokes, the passive-aggressive remarks, the point keeping, we knew that those behaviors weren't going to have a place in our new club. And what these conversations really centered around was the type of member experience that we wanted to cultivate. And we wanted one that fosters both engagement and growth. And grow we did. Now, I know that that's probably something that's on your mind as club leaders right now. You're hearing the calls to grow your membership now more than ever. And I gotta be honest, that can sound a little daunting if the focus is just on getting people in the door so we can report positive net growth at the end of the year. So what I ask of each of you is to use the numbers as a guide, use them as a benchmark, but focus your energy on the member experience. Build a club culture that is Rotary happy. And let's think about why we should grow. We don't want to grow Rotary just so we can put some impressive numbers up on the scoreboard. We need to grow Rotary because it expands our capacity to do good in the world. Focus on that because we know that above all else, members join and members stay because of the service they do and the friends they meet. You all just proved it to me when I asked you why you were in Rotary. And it's certainly why I've stayed in Rotary. And so often we focus on practical barriers to membership like dues and meeting times and meeting frequency. Well, those are easier to measure and a little simpler to change. And thankfully, Rotary has afforded us a lot of flexibility to make those changes as we need to. But it's a little more uncomfortable and a whole lot more challenging to address things like club culture. And many times, toxic organizational culture might actually be the source of a lot of problematic issues faced by some clubs. Our best tool to grow Rotary is to cultivate positive Rotary happy experiences for all of our members. And if you're doubting this, well, how dare you doubt this? I'm going to prove it to you. So yes, the member experience, I'm sure, is the foundation for building all of the opportunities that Rotary has to offer. And here's why. About 5 months ago, I purchased an electric tea kettle. In fact, I purchased this electric tea kettle. It was my very first one. I'd never owned one before that. And before that, I just simply used a pot on the stove to heat water for tea. So I purchased this kettle, this one, it's red. And now I use it not only for my tea every day, but for a number of other things. I use it for cooking, all kinds of things. It's basically been the answer to every question I never knew I had. And my kids use it to heat water and for their oatmeal, for their hot chocolate. My husband uses it. It's been a positive and lovely addition to our kitchen. Now, I can see your faces. Now, for those of you that are wondering, where is she going with this ridiculous story about a kitchen appliance? Let me connect the dots. So within 1 week of owning this kettle, I purchased a second one to keep at my office. because I knew that my coworkers and my staff would enjoy it just as much as me. In fact, one of my coworkers even purchased one for her own home. I've ordered 2 of this very same kettle to be sent to my friends as gifts. And I've talked about this kettle to dozens of friends and relatives, recommending that they each check it out. I'm now talking it to a couple hundred people about this kettle because I like it so much. Now, let's think about why I'm doing this. It's not because the manufacturer has asked me to. It's not because I'll get anything in return. I'm certainly not getting paid to tell you about this kettle. There's no gimmick here. I found this simple appliance to be useful and beneficial, so I want to share it with others. Now, I'm not suggesting that we apply kitchen appliance design principles to Rotary, but I am asking that we apply what we know about human behavior to Rotary. As human beings, we are biologically programmed to connect to others. When we observe someone we care about experiencing happiness, it has a biological and neurological impact on us. We experience releases of dopamine and serotonin, which are helpful neurotransmitters in our brains that help us feel joy. We crave it. So think about the last time that you tasted something new at a restaurant, or a time when you hiked a beautiful trail, or you read a book that inspired you. You probably recommended those things to others. Why? Because you're invested in their happiness. It matters to you. Now, if I talk this much about a tea kettle, imagine how much I talk about Rotary. So let's apply that knowledge and that framework to how we build clubs that are Rotary happy. So take a look at the experience that you offer to your members. Take a look at the service opportunities and the meetings that you offer. Now you'll notice I'm specifically using the word offer, and that's because everything in Rotary should be an offering, not a requirement. So take a look at your offerings and consider where you might make improvements. Where might you grow? What are the strengths that you have to build on? What are the traditions that aren't working? Maybe that's the time to let them go. And now, during a time when the Rotary experience around the world looks a little different anyways, take a risk. It's a great time to take a hard look at your club culture and explore opportunities to stretch a little. What makes you Rotary happy? What makes your members Rotary happy? Stay focused on offering an experience that builds on those basic principles, and I promise you will see growth in your club. You will see improved attendance, you will see gains in giving, and you will see engaged, excited members who just can't help but share their Rotary happy experience with everyone they know. So tonight I extend my gratitude to each and every one of you. Thank you for sharing this evening with me. I hope that you all stay very Rotary happy, and do me a favor and tell someone else why you're Rotary happy, because the world deserves for you to be your kindest self, and the world deserves more Rotary happy people in the world. And I really look forward to all of your questions.
Hi, Jenny. The first question is, what would you say that your club was why your club was able to grow so fast? Was it because the toxic environment from the previous club, or perhaps was it having people who are more of a similar culture and age to you?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. We had a lot of first-time Rotarians who chartered with us. We had a lot of people who had left our old club and then came back to Rotary later on and joined us. Our club, our youngest member is 21. Our oldest member is in their late 70s. So we have a kind of a large range. We are a club that has a few more women than men. We're working on that. We're trying to recruit more men. I think that what we did was we created fun experiences, and people asked all the time, you know, other clubs would say, well, what are you doing for outreach? What are you doing to recruit? And we would say, well, absolutely nothing. We're just having fun. We're doing good work. We're talking about it, and people just want to come. And I didn't keep these stats other than the year that I was president, because I really wanted to improve, you know, with my leadership. But I started keeping track of when people attended a service project, a social event, or a meeting, how often were they becoming a member of our club? And what we learned was that about 85% of the time across all of those things, they would become a member of our club. So if they attended a meeting, if they attended a social event, and it didn't matter which one they attended, which kind of told me that the what isn't as important as the who and the how. And we had people who enjoyed the service events, who enjoyed the social outings and enjoyed the meetings. They were all fun. They were all inspiring. So people wanted to get involved with that. So I think sometimes if we're looking to pull people from the outside in, we need to start with what's inside and make that a positive experience, because then they just can't help but talk about it.
Okay, the next question, Jenny, is, well, I think you kind of answered this. How do you go about recruiting a new member weekly?
Yeah, they just kept coming. So it was just, I think we were having a good time and talking about it. I often tell the joke, I have a Rotarian for that. So, anything, if I need something, any kind of service or professional thing, I always say I have a Rotarian for that, because it's just made so many connections within our community. And I don't think I have a single friend who hasn't joined Rotary because they saw what I was doing and, saw the work that we were doing and couldn't wait to get involved with it.
The next question is, are there any recommendations for how you correct toxic club culture?
I think being willing to talk about it and being willing to name it and not tolerating it. A couple of the members, in fact, 2 men who were in the club, the original club with me, and now are in our current club and are some of my closest friends. They were 2 men in particular who stood up for me and a few other women who were experiencing what was going on. And I've told them several times that I don't know that I would have survived it and kind of stayed in Rotary had it not been for them, and how much I appreciated that they were being vocal about what was going on and trying to do something about it, even though we did end up having to go in a new direction. I think speaking up about it, and I think eliminating some of those more sentinel behaviors that before it gets to the level of, those kind of more harassing behaviors or more inappropriate bullying behaviors. So when there are those comments about, kind of measuring who's doing more or less, I think another great way to avoid that kind of toxic environment is to upcycle your leadership often. So I don't believe that any person should serve as the chair of a project or a committee for more than just a couple of years, because otherwise they feel they own it. And it's really hard for other people to step into that role because it's a lot of work to turn it over. So I think constantly cycling people up through your leadership, it's good for your club because it brings new ideas, right? Your club should change a little every single time someone new joins, because those are new ideas coming forward. So making sure that you're engaging a lot of people in leadership, I think, is a pretty natural way to eliminate those power struggles that can sometimes happen and then eventually might bubble into something more toxic.
Oh, great. Jalim wants to know that you say that your club has no rules. He thinks that's kind of scary. He wants you to explain a little more on that one.
Well, by rules, so we were really clear that we're all volunteers. Nobody has to do Rotary. Nobody has to go to a Rotary meeting. Nobody has to be their club president. Nobody has to be a district governor. You all get to do that. I think so taking that perspective of it, I certainly as an early leader in our club did not feel, my job is a little stressful, my professional work is a little stressful, and I wasn't going to let Rotary be another thing that I had to enforce or coerce people to do. So instead, we just wanted to engage people. And so we have no rules about attendance, and we really have no rules. I know that, Rotary told us a couple years ago that we didn't need to worry about attendance anymore, but we really don't worry about attendance. We have no expectation. We don't have any rules about you have to participate in so many projects or you have to give so much money. We have no rules about age or what your job is. We've actually started a Rotaract club, and when we were starting our Rotaract club, we looked at one of our members, because we have a lot of members who are university students. And so we looked to them, we said, hey, we were told we should start this Rotaract Club. We want to start one, we want to support one. And we said, would you be the first president of our Rotaract Club? So it was actually a member of our club became the president of our Rotaract Club. So it kind of did backwards a little bit. So things like that, we just don't really have any rules or expectations about that. My husband's a member of our club and can very rarely attend a meeting because of his work schedule. He's also on school drop-off duty in our family, so he rarely attends a meeting. No one says anything about that. So when I say no rules, it's none of those kind of traditional hierarchies. We very specifically don't have a sergeant at arms. We don't do anything like the fines or anything like that, just to try and eliminate some of those expectations.
Okay, Giselle has a question here. I know you left as you chose not to remain in the negativity of your first club.
Yes.
But do you think it would have been worth staying on to help change the culture? I was just wondering if that Rotary Club was able to get it right eventually.
Yeah, we tried. We actually had tried for a long time before that, before we left. So there was a period of quite several months of very actively trying to change that. And I will say that that club happened to have, their charter was pulled on June 30th, and we submitted our application for our new charter on July 1. So that club no longer exists. I will say that a lot of people who had left that club are now in our current club.
Okay, and William wants to know, what were some of the projects that engaged your perspectives to join? What projects did you do?
Service projects. So we made a commitment to have at least one what we call flash service projects every single month. So we have one very easy to get involved with service project each month. Sometimes we have several because we have a little bit of trouble focusing in our club. And when someone says, oh, hey, this is a great idea, we say, yes, let's do it, pull a team together. Okay, so we have all these little service project teams going on all the time. We also offer something called bite-sized service, which are not service projects that we host, but we team up with community organizations. So serving food, at a senior center, or doing park cleanup, something that someone could kind of do over their lunch break. So that's why we call it bite-sized service. And then we have a couple of larger projects that we work on. The one event I mentioned, our Paddle for Polio Plus event, is a kayaking event that we have. So we always have a lot of projects going on. Our chief fundraiser for our club, which is how we fund our Drafts for a Difference, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But our chief fundraiser is a murder mystery theater production, which we all act in. So the Rotarians act in it. I have never gotten to be the killer, but I really want to be one of these days when I'm acting. But so we all act on stage. So you'll look up on the stage and you'll see me. We have a judge in our club who's acts up there, which is a fun thing that we do. And we use the proceeds from that. We host an event every single month called Drafts for a Difference. I'm actually have my water from a Drafts for a Difference cup. But it's a community happy hour that we host where we pick a new charity every month that receives $2 from every draft beer that's sold during that event. And our first Drafts for a Difference was just us meeting for happy hour. And we said, oh, we should figure out a way to make this charitable. And so, we started off with just about a half a dozen of us at Drafts for a Difference. Now we've given $30,000 US back into the community from Drafts for a Difference. And we have a couple hundred people that come to those happy hours. Obviously now we're doing virtual happy hours, but kind of a cool thing. So yeah, we have lots of different little projects happening at any given time. And we love to partner with community organizations that are in our area and just support their events too, so.
Okay, and this one comes very much similar, but what makes your meetings fun? What do you do at your meetings to make them fun?
Yeah, so we have, I'll actually show you. We have a woohoo sign. So we celebrate this way during our virtual meetings. We have real ones in our meeting. We do a tradition that I think a lot of Rotary clubs do called Happy Bucks, where people pay $1 to say something that they're happy about. And it could be something professional or something personal. Those often take up a half an hour or take up the majority of our Rotary Club or Rotary meeting, because people have so many happy things to share. We also have a fun getting to know you activity called the hot seat, where a different member is in the hot seat each week, and they roll a dice, and then they have to answer a personal question about themselves. And so that's a fun activity that we have. None of our meetings ever look the same. We do recite the four-way test at every single meeting, which I know is kind of a traditional thing that we do. We do that actually intentionally, because when we, as the old club was folding, we really kept saying, well, gosh, if we just applied the four-way test to this, why aren't we doing this? So we very intentionally recite that as a group at the beginning of every meeting as a reminder to everyone of, the kind of the code that we've all chosen to live by as Rotarians. We have a lot of guests and a lot of kids at our meetings. So my children frequently attend our meetings. We have a lot of people like me who have small children. So we have a lot of kids and families at our meetings. So some of our meetings are dancing. Right now we're running a contest to raise money in jars, so that one of our board members will have to eat a bug. So whichever board member gets the most money has to eat a bug this summer. It's a fundraiser for a pest charity, but so we just do a lot of silly things like that. We do have speakers a couple times a month. Usually the recipient of our Drafts for a Difference fundraising comes and accepts the check and presents to us. We're hosting an exchange student right now. I'm her Rotary counselor. So she comes to all of our meetings. She's kind of like a pseudo member. Our exchange student comes. So we just have a lot of fun. We have 2 Interact clubs, so they come to our meetings a lot too. They often challenge us to things. So they'll challenge us to see who can raise, the most money or get the most donations of food. So we have a lot of fun, heckling each other in that way and having a lot of fun going back and forth. So we don't really have a set meeting structure necessarily. So it tends to flow as it needs to.
And this is Tracy. Tracy wants to know, do you have any suggestions on moving a club where there's a long-standing membership with entrenched formats and expectations of how things are done into a more modern approach?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's one I think about a lot. I think especially when there's this, there's a big focus on getting millennials into Rotary and engaging people my age or young professionals. And I always wonder that if I weren't a millennial, would I feel like I didn't matter anymore because no one was trying to get me in? And so I think what we have to do is honor those traditions and honor people who have institutional knowledge about our clubs. And there are a lot of traditions that have a lot of value and that we've spent the last 100 years building. So I think it's not necessarily saying we're going to flip everything on its head in this club and change everything. And instead start with just 1 or 2 things. So we're going to keep everything that's working and we're going to add 1 or 2 more ideas. So I say, trying not to do, think of it as changing, think of it as stretching. So you're not changing and getting rid of the traditions that some of your members would value and think are important. You're just stretching a little bit and adding a little bit more. And, I also think that be bold in your leadership. Rotary, we build our foundation on being open and being inclusive. We say that, so we should be acting that way too. So if there's a way that we as a club could stretch a little bit, even if it's a little uncomfortable, how dare we not do that? Otherwise, are we really Rotary? So I think being bold and taking that stand as a leader, you don't have to pick fights necessarily with your Rotary Club, but be bold in your leadership and say, this is what we stand for. This is what our Rotary Club is. This is what Rotary is. And we're going to stretch and we're going to invite new people. And if there's a barrier that could be easily addressed that would give someone new an opportunity to become a part of your club, I think that you just make it so that that's the way it's going to be and lead with that level of boldness in it.
Okay, Mary has a question. Without a structured meeting, how do you keep the meetings from extending too long?
We very promptly end. And in fact, if a lot of people have to leave a little early from our meetings anyways to get to their jobs. So we also don't mind if they slip out while we're still having the meeting. But all of our presidents, we have a really fantastic president right now, and she just does a good job of wrapping up that meeting pretty quickly. And there have been times where, maybe our district governor was coming to give his talk or something, and we've had to say, all right, nobody can be too happy today because we have to save our time because our district governor has some things to say. So we tell everybody, you can't be too happy today. Keep it to a dull roar, the happiness. Because we tend to share a lot of our, those happy butts take a long time where people share that. So it's a little joke that we share and kind of have a little bit of fun with our district governor when they come in and say, nobody can be too happy. Exactly, rein in the happiness for the next week.
Shireen was asking, do you have any activities for kids when they're attending your meetings?
A lot of times the kids kind of participate in the meetings because, we're all, there's a lot of us, but we're in a small town. So a lot of us, we are very friendly, even outside of Rotary, we're all friends. So we happen to still meet in that coffee shop where there are, they have like board games and things just available. I know my youngest son, he's 8 now, but when he was about 5, he came to a meeting and he thought it was really boring. I thought it was fun. We were laughing a lot, but he thought it was boring. And he told me, he goes, Mom, these meetings, if you wanted to get more kids to come to your meetings, you really should have games like Battleship or Checkers or something. So now the kids usually pull out the board games and they'll play or participate in the meeting. My kids hate it when I talk at our meetings because I usually say something to embarrass them. So, but yeah, we just have games and stuff, and we have a lot of members who've had babies recently. So we all take turns holding the baby, things like that.
Oh, that's great. I had a question. In your bio, you said where you pulled together the big project,
yeah.
Which included all the Rotary clubs, the Kiwanis, the Lions, and so on. You want to tell us a little about that? Because as we go forward, we all be struggling for the same funds under this COVID-19 and the same sponsors. How did you do that?
Yeah, so it's kind of been a dream project. So I'm an assistant governor right now, and one thing I noticed, I support 5 clubs in that role. And one thing I noticed as I was stepping into that role was that even our 5 Rotary clubs in our region or in our area, they didn't work together a lot. And there was almost this undercurrent of competition between them, which I thought was just silly. So my first goal was to get all of our Rotary clubs to do projects together. So now we have each year like a 5-club service project that the president-elects pick out and work on. They actually plan it during pets, and then they kind of carry it out through the year. This year their project was actually a book project, and I have 10,000 books sitting in our business waiting to be distributed once the restrictions are lifted. So my first goal was to get Rotary to work together in our community. And then I noticed as I would run into people or for my job, I might be at a Kiwanis meeting or a Lions Club meeting, and they would always kind of like give me a hard time about being in Rotary. And then I would notice in my Rotary Club meeting, they would kind of give me a hard time jokingly about attending a Lions Club meeting or something like that. And I, again, thought that was silly. So I approached all of our service, I call it like the flavors of service organizations in our community, and said, I want to do a project, and I want to do a project where we will feed 10,000 people together in our community. So we did. We pulled together a project. It actually, the actual event has gotten delayed because of the pandemic right now. But we pulled it together, and we were going to pack food boxes for our local food pantry. We live in an area that there's a lot of poverty and a lot of food insecurity. So we're going to pack enough food to feed 10,000 people. And then it just kind of kept growing from there. And we were calling it a day of service. And we jokingly started calling it the big project, and that stuck. So we had representatives from all the different organizations, and now it has ballooned into 6 different projects within one giant day of service. In the 6 projects support, there's an environmental project, an animal advocacy project, 2 child welfare projects, food insecurity projects, and one for to address domestic violence. So it was kind of my dream project to bring everybody together, to work together inspire our community on a day of service. So unfortunately, we had to cancel the actual day. It's been postponed. But we had several hundred people, both members of all of our organizations and the larger community, who were going to come together and work together on that day of service. And my hope is that they would leave there and join one of our organizations, either the Lions Club or the Rotary Club, or, you know, join one of our organizations and get inspired by service. Because I just think that, you know, it doesn't make sense for Rotary to compete with the Lions Club or the, you know, if you look at our missions, they line up so closely that I think that if our local colleagues in service have strong organizations, that makes us a strong organization too. So I think any kind of opportunities for partnership there, and I just kind of stopped listening to all of the negativity about, you know, all the, like, you know, the Lions Club is better, or the Rotary Club is better, or this is better. And I just kept smiling, kept being Rotary happy. And eventually I think people realized I wasn't reacting to that negativity, and I just kept going forward with the partnership. But it's been a dream project of mine, and it's still now happening in a different form, but it's been a really exciting thing to be a part of. And I've been planning it for a really long time.
So you told us it was a small community and you're feeding 10,000 needy people.
Yes.
So it's not that small, because 10,000 is a lot in our neck of the woods. But one of the questions that would come up from all of this is, where do you get the time? How do you manage your time?
I have a color-coded calendar. Also, I think this is something I get asked a lot, is that I think when you think intentionally about the organizations or the projects that you give your time to, as a person, me as a person, the priorities kind of happen naturally, because, you know, time is a thing, right? But I think when you consider what's important to you, for me, for example, my yeses are yeses. So the things that I say yes to, I'm definitely going to do, because I've weighed that I have something of value to contribute. It seems beneficial to me to get involved, or I think it's important. But that also means that I say no to a lot as well, because I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want, you know, if I say yes, it means yes. And so I think really focusing my energy on things that rise to the top in terms of priorities and level of importance. And I shared with you all of you about my personal story, but for me, Rotary and all of the projects that we touch and the work that we do is a really natural priority for me. So it kind of floats to the top for me, and it helps that my whole family is involved in Rotary. My kids can spot a Rotary wheel when we're driving down the road from miles away. And I think, you know, my kids are little, you know, future Rotarians probably, but it's really a family affair for us, which I think helps too.
That's great. There's something else I wanted to ask you. We are all surrounded by water. All of us, most of us are islands. Tell us about this annual event of the kayaks. Is it a fundraising event that you do?
Yeah, it's our Polio Plus fundraiser. So we hold it towards the fall in preparation for October. And it's actually, it's not really gambling, but so people, you know, come and they make a donation, and it's a poker game, like a card game. And so they get their cards, and then they have to paddle out to all the various checkpoints across it's in a lake. And so they'll paddle out, and they have to, you know, take a picture or, you know, toss a ball, and then they get a stamp. Once they collect all 5 of their stamps, they come back and we draw a winner, and they win a kayak paddle. And for us, it kind of ends up being a really fun just day at the lake, which kind of turns into a picnic. My dad actually comes, and he's the official cook at this event. So it's just kind of another fun family event. But we're all in canoes and kayaks and paddle boards out in the water. The first year we did it, we had maybe 30 or 40 people come and participate. And now we're on year 3, or we'll be on year 4 this coming summer. And so we have a little more than 100 people that participate and come and just kayak for the day and have some fun. And it also is really good public awareness for us too, because it's in a pretty visible place in our community. So a lot of people, we bring like our district has a fire truck. I'm not sure why, but our district has a fire truck that has Rotary all over it. And so that we've brought that down and, you know, blow up Rotary wheels and stuff. So people who are just at the lake and had no idea we were there just kind of stumbled upon us and said, "Oh, what are you doing? I want to do this. Give me some food." So we don't charge for food or anything like that. So it's just kind of a fun community day.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more. This comes from Karen. What are some tips on saying no graciously?
So I always start my no's with a thank you, because there is a reason that someone reached out to you to ask you to do something. They thought that you would bring something of value. So I usually say, thank you so much for thinking of me. And then typically it's, I've thought about this and I'm not sure that I have the time that this deserves. I'm not sure that I have the bandwidth that this deserves. Or I'm not sure that I'm the best person for this, but I want to connect you to my friend Barry because he would be perfect for this project. And he could definitely handle this. So you could, if he's shaking his head no, which means yes. Just kidding, I'm just kidding. So, you know, I think starting it off with a thank you and saying, especially if they're asking you to, you know, join a board or to join a project or to join a committee, and, you know, actually consider it and, you know, consider if it fits into what you have and then just answer honestly. But I always start with a thank you and then try to, you know, pivot or point them in a direction where they can still get help. But I would also say you don't always have to explain your no either. Sometimes you can just say, thank you for thinking of me, but I don't, you know, you don't always have to explain yourself. We have this human nature urge to do that, but you don't always necessarily have to explain that, but I say thanks, but no.
Well, Jenny, what I would tell you is Dominic says you seem to bring joy around you. This is nice to hear. Michael says very refreshing. So I think all in all, we've all learned a lot this evening, but I will just hand over. I will invite DGE Charles to bring us some closing remarks. DGE Charles.
Thanks, Nigel. As you can see, I have my, I don't know if I could say it high enough. It's behind me, right? So I got my woohoo behind me. Thank you so much. I can tell the energy, the excitement, a person stayed on just to hear and ask questions. And so really, really good. It was so refreshing to, first of all, find out that Jenny and I had so much in common. She is a triathlete. I like to watch triathlons. I mean, awesome. I mean, I was just so happy to see that. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. For those of you in 7020, this is probably the one session that brings everything together, everything we've been talking about in terms of the North Star, from looking at a number of the resources and key presentations to help you prepare your year. It all ends with having an exciting, vibrant club and making sure your members are inspired to do good. And so thank you so much, Jenny, for just crystallizing those thoughts so that these presidents have now with them the energy, the confidence, more importantly, to chart a new course for their clubs. And so we're looking forward to what the new norm is going to be in these clubs. We look forward to some exciting times. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Those of you who brought your wine glasses, those of you who have a glass nearby, I'm actually going to raise a quick toast. We're getting closer and closer to the end of this beautiful, happy union of pets training. And I am always thankful to have met you, Lyle, and to have bonded and created a brotherhood. And that has caused two districts to come together to do some really exciting, great things. So my toast is to Rotary in the Caribbean and to Rotary around the world. Cheers.
Thank you, DGE Charles. On behalf of District 7020 and 7030, we bid you good night. Jenny, on a parting note, someone said best presentation of the pets so far. So well done. Thank you very much for all your wonderful energy.
Thank you so much.
And we're back here again on Saturday, folks. See you then.